Okay, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Greg, I got a question for you.
Okay.
You being knowledgeable and doing this for quite a while, on the average, what would you say, do you ever pick up oil without water, or do you ever pick up oil, I mean, what's...
I do, but I've been very selective. Let's kind of preface that too. I field phone calls. I guess I had to introduce myself. My name is Greg Blair, and I'm from Utah Biodiesel Supply. I'm in Utah, and I've been making biodiesel since about 2003. So that's kind of who I am, what I do. But I field phone calls from all over the country. I would say 90% of my phone calls that I field from people with problems with their biodiesel, whether they've made a bad batch or they've made a emulsion, is to water. There's water in the oil. The problem with water in the oil is you can't see it. You can't see it. And even if you've got water that separates down on the bottom and you drain that off, there's an interface layer that most people miss. Someone from the company that makes the BioPro, the chemist, put it well. He says, when you think you've got all the water out, you've almost got it out. When you think you've got it out, well, there's still some more. And that's because you just can't see that water in there. So the oil that we collect, we dewater if after we make a batch and it doesn't pass 327, something was wrong, and then we have to re-react it. But the majority of our oil we've gotten so many times, so often that we know if there's water in it. However, we've gotten very good at dumping our barrels. And we know where that water layer is as we dump them through our filters. What we do is we have a lift gate, and we go out and get our barrels and we bring them back, and we just lift that barrel up on a lift gate. We have another barrel here, and as you pour that oil, we can actually tell where that interface layer is, and we go way above that and don't put that in our barrels. Good question. Most important, if you want to mark something down, the most important test you can test for is water. It will affect everything in biodiesel. It throws everything off. So as we were talking, this is the second test. I think this test is actually pretty good. It allows you to find out very accurately what your water content is. I find, in my opinion, is that if your water content is about 2% or higher, it's going to throw off your reaction. So you want it nothing, but there's absolutely no way to completely get rid of all the water in the biodiesel. If we go by a golden standard, which is the ASTM standard, they say that in biodiesel we can have about 1,500 parts per million total water. Now that's free water and dissolved water after it's done. The standard calls for 500. But if you look at the real stuff on the standard, it actually takes it up to 1,500 because biodiesel can absorb, I think it's about 1,000 parts per million if I remember right. So, but I like to get it as low as I can because water in the oil is going to affect the biodiesel reaction. Go ahead.
How do you convert parts per million to a percentage?
1,500 parts per million is 1.5%.
There's
So
no 0.15?
0.15%, I'm sorry.
I'm getting the 8%, they're not the
You
same.
divide the parts per million by 10,000.
So for ppm, divide it by 10,000 is going to equal percent. So 0.15% water is all the ASTM allows for. Now that's total and free. Free water, I think it only allows for 500. Dissolved water will go through a diesel. I mean, it's dissolved, it's deleted. It's that free water that we don't like because that's what falls out and what causes problems. Okay, so we've talked about this test where we weigh it.
So with this test, when you're actually operating and you get something that is 1%, you try to dewater it again. What point do you have a cutoff?
I would say about 2%. However, well, it depends on your machine and it depends on what your equipment's going to do. As part of your making of the biodiesel, if it's going to drive some of that water off as it's making it, then 1% is probably okay. However, if your goal is to make the best fuel in the world you can, if it's 1%, dewater it and see what you get out of it.
Okay, so you don't have an absolute
No, I don't.
in yours,
Right.
so I'd have to adjust the process or
Mhm.
figure out what it is in my process.
Exactly. Some processes are really forgiving and others aren't. If you're using an acid step, get all that water out, because the acid step is absolutely not forgiving to water in the oil.
Well, acid step is gonna make water.
Yeah. And so you want to get as much water out of it as you can to start with, because if it's going to make water, that's going to add in addition to that. So you want to get
water
as much.
after the acid?
Huh?
Do you need water after acid?
I don't, but I have talked to people that do. You've got to do it carefully, because if you let the oil cool back down while you're removing the water, you've just lost the whole benefit of using acid, because the titration will go back up.
It'll go high and you'll never get it
Or
back.
you're gonna lose the, if you dewater, you're gonna lose the methanol that's in it as well.
You will. You will. Yep.
What do you? It doesn't really make that much water, you know, or. It doesn't really make that, it makes some water, it doesn't make that much that throws your.
That's a great question, and I'm going to defer that to the class that's going to be talking about dewatering today.
Yeah.
I'll
yeah,
tell you,
it is.
I have a bio
The
probe, I
gain
just turn the heat
outweighs
on,
your
stir
loss of
around, and let it
catalyst.
run. But there's a million different ways to dewater. There's an excellent class today about dewatering and filtering vegetable oil. I'm going to defer that to them. So, the next test we're going to do is something called a water test kit. This is a piece of equipment that allows you to test for water pretty accurately, down to 0.05%, or 50 parts per million, or 500. You know what, but it's even finer, because I know it's 50 parts per million. So if someone wants to do the math, you can pick 0.05%. So this is very accurate. So we're going to show you how to do it. We hope it works. We're kind of in a lab where haven't done many of these, so, okay. I'm assuming that this oil is fairly dry. Is that a fair assumption?
It's settled, it's been settled for 3 months probably, so it should be fairly dry.
Okay.
Which doesn't mean squat.
Yeah. So this test calls for 4 milliliters of that sample. I'm going to grab this syringe. I think you put it on the outside, don't you? You put
Yes.
the catalyst in the cup.
Catalyst goes in the cup.
It's got this calcium hydride. Calcium hydride does a chemical reaction between moisture and oil and produces hydrogen gas. The hydrogen gas is then picked up on a meter. There's then a chart that we look at on this meter, and that tells you what your parts per million of water are.
What is that device called again?
It's called a water test kit. If you want to see them, utahbio.com, I sell them. It's kind of a neat history. It was actually invented by Mobil 1 to sense moisture in hydraulic fluid. I'm going to pull this glove off and do it. Back on here a second.
That calcium hydride, by the way, also is.
You have a knife?
Is almost explosive with water. It's
Got a
something
notch on this.
that you do not, I'll hold it, you slice
There we go. Okay.
They even catch you near an airport with that stuff, they'll probably shoot you.
Don't ever try and... Shipping them is difficult at best.
And that comes from you?
It actually comes from, I sell it, yeah, but it comes from a place in Delaware, the manufacturer of it.
So it comes from the manufacturer?
It ships right from them. It's $209 and it has $35 of shipping on it. We can ship them internationally, but it's not cheap. I sent one overseas once and the shipping alone was $300. And it's all because of this little chemical.
So if you do order one, order an extra 50 packets at the same time.
And you couldn't go to a chemical warehouse, you have to.
You could try. I mean, I asked him about that, and he says, yeah, you can do it if you can find it, but he says it's a difficult chemical to find.
And it's very, very small quantities, so you have to measure it out.
Right, and the middles are pre-made.
And
These
keep
are
it bone
pre-measured
dry.
Yeah. One thing that's important, Norm just mentioned it, is you need to use a dry solvent. this solvent isn't just your average paint thinner, it's actually been dried. It actually says that right on the side. You gotta keep it dry, because if you have moisture in the solvent, you've just thrown off your test. Yep.
I'm sure it's on the pack.
And what
so you
is
take
that
a look.
called?
He calls this reagent B. It's basically a paint thinner or it's just a solvent. It's kind of like, yeah, it's, pardon? It might be, I don't remember. I've got an MSDS on it, but reagent B is all I call it. And it calls for 16 milliliters, so. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a cup inside this. I don't want to tilt it because I'll lose my thing. I put the reagent in this little cup. I put the oil around it. I'm going to put this oil, or this solution down in here,
In
in the oil, not in the cup. Put the lid on.
Yeah, the only thing that goes in the little cup in there is the calcium hydroxide, the hydrate. Because you want to keep it set, because it is explosive. Now he's mixing the two of them together.
Now it mixes. It's already getting a reading, so it's starting to react.
How much this kit was?
Huh?
How much does this kit go with shipping?
It's 209 plus 35 in shipping.
How many packets is that?
Comes with a packet of 50, but you can get another pack of 50 for an extra amount, and then the shipping's the same because it all fits in a box. This is what they ship like. See all the hazmat stickers on it? And they really label the thing.
And they pack them well too. I should get mine bugs to pack that well.
So this is reading at 2. You can see that.
It looks like pretty clean oil.
Look like pretty clean oil. So if I look at his little chart, it's the gauge reading times 0.2. Does someone have a calculator they can pull up on a computer real quick?
It'll be 0.4.
0.44%. So this oil is pretty dry. 0.44% oil.
Has that oil had any processing done to it at all? Other than water?
No.
Nothing?
No, it's
Just sat.
just been settled in an IBC.
So if that were your oil, would you process it as is?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no problem processing this.
I think it's titrated.
Assuming it's titrated, and it is going to titrate bad, and we'll show you, because we titrated this yesterday. It was pretty high. For those that came to that other class. So those are 3 tests that you can do for water. This is actually coming up just a little bit. It's 2.1, so but it's still very low. Okay.
And there is a relief valve on there. You don't want to dead end the gauge. Because you don't want to blow the top out of that gauge, you're gonna have problems. So there is that little silver knob that you see on top is a vent valve, so you can relieve the pressure in there.
And this is kind of cool. This scale actually can test for 1.5 range, a 3% range, a 6% range, or 12% range. So based on what you put in it, you either put more solvent in it or you put more oil in it to get that to work right.
What is the solvent? IPA? Isopropyl?
I don't think it is. I think it says
Toluene
low
or something.
aromatic petroleum distillate solvent, non-hazardous, flash point greater than 61C. It's, if you call, or I mean, if you email me, I can tell you what it is. I've got the MSDS on it, but it could be. He says if you walk into Walmart and get paint thinner, it'll work if you can get it dry. It is just a solvent. There's no other reason for it except it's just there to dissolve the oil, and it's been dry.
Is it temperature sensitive?
It is, and there's a temperature conversion in here, which I'll kind of let you read through if you'd like afterwards.
So if you got a new batch of oil from, let's say, a new source, you would probably want to start at a high rate.
Yeah, and
So
come down, because you don't know what it is.
Yeah, and you don't
Yeah.
want to go it off.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Is that conversion then to 0.4, 0.44, is that a weight percentage then?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's volumetric. isn't it?
I think it might be volumetric, but I don't know. You can email him. He's an excellent chemist at it.
You can use this on your bio also.
You can, yes. In fact, if I've got something to dump and clean this out with, we will test some biodiesel. We have a little, we bring our jar. I can use this because we're not going to make
No,
it.
well, that one jar has got just a little bit of methanol in it, just go ahead and dump it in there, we'll just get rid of it all.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is he encourages you to clean it out with the same solvent. You never want to clean these out with water. Should be pretty obvious why. I'm going to flush this and we'll test some biodiesel real quick.
So there's an inside cup and then an outer, whatever you're saying?
There is, yeah, let me show you now.
Okay.
There's 2 cups. Now there's a new model now, he paints it green. I'll actually show you what it looks like. Actually, I'll let Norm cut that out of its packing and I'll let you pass it around and you pull the cup open. Inside, it's this epoxy cup would come out because it's just epoxy to the bottom, and so it's all one piece now. So we'll pass that around. If you would, please don't drop it because the gauges are somewhat sensitive. We don't want to. That's a brand new water test kit. Okay, let's.
Your business to sell them. I'll grease it up with a little oil. Your business to sell them. Oh, that's yours.
So I noticed that you didn't talk about centrifuge method.
Ah,
You're right.
cool.
I'll give you a bias. I don't like centrifuges.
That's the ASTM,
Some people do,
right?
Huh?
That's ASTM.
Yeah, they use a Carl Fisher though. Okay. Carl Fisher, I'm not real sure how it uses, but I've just never been a fan of centrifuges. The majority of the people that I talk with, they get all excited, they get a centrifuge, and then the cylinder breaks. Or then they can't figure out, the problem with a centrifuge is every batch of oil is different. It's going to have a different specific gravity. However, I think you've got a centrifuge, don't you, Paul? If you want to talk about someone that's got some good expertise with it, talk to him. I'll be honest, I'm an idiot when it comes to them, and so it's not an area of expertise I have at all. Just based on what customers have told me, they've struggled with them.
Speed's your most important part of the centrifuge.
Okay, finished biodiesel here. Let's do a water test kit on this and see how dry it is.
That's out of
I'm
my,
going to need you to open that because it's good and tight.
this is on my 380.
Is it? Okay.
First batch of my 380. Yeah. We'll see how well dry it is.
How dried it was. Get another packet out. Pull me out another packet. And just cut it open.
You're about to shut your computer.
That one's okay. I'll let him do that. That's another projector over there.
Goes
Okay.
into sleep. It'll be a while to come back.
16. Yeah.
What's the cost per test on these? Approximately.
Take 209 and divide it by 50.
Well, no, actually,
But, I mean, the-
packets are $40 plus whatever the solvent is, so basically $1.
It's called for 4.
That would be just your first batch because you're figuring the cost of the meter.
Yeah, no, this little packet costs 80 cents,
80 cents.
plus your solvent,
Does that
so.
include the shipping?
Shipping's 35.
Okay, so if you buy
You
1,000,
pop that open.
shipping costs come down.
Pardon?
They might,
So let's see how dry the biodiesel is.
Yeah.
You can unscrew the thing too and see the difference in the design in there on that one. It's a much better design.
how long is it?
True?
Today,
Today. We don't test for water because our oil is usually so good.
And I think I bought that a year and a half ago, and I've used it maybe twice.
And we just don't have a lot of water issues. Now, if I was selling it, absolutely, I sell this to a lot of factories. A lot of biodiesel factories buy this thing, and they love it. It's also been compared to a Carl Fisher. It's about as accurate. Granted, a Carl Fisher is going to have a lot more degrees of accuracy, if you will. That's kind of the gold standard. That's what they use in the ASTM.
I think it does
Is
say
that
on
one of
the-
these? Yeah. No, but I had a guy that bought one that had a Carl Fisher, who runs a new vegetable lab, and boy, we're not getting anything. This is great. Well, we're getting 0.5, but your meter was already off a little bit even. It doesn't zero on this, I noticed.
Well, you better tell Mark Roberts how good that dry is then.
Yeah, look at that. He tested it against Carl Fisher on several batches, and he found it to be within tolerance of the Carl Fisher. So he was really excited. He emailed me back. And if you want to see a funny post, for those of you that are on InfoPop, if you go over to the waste vegetable oil side, there was a huge discussion about these a while back, where we talked about this, and basically the basic premise was it's as good as a Carl Fisher for the price you pay. It's excellent. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
the nice thing is you can take these out and test your oil in the field, and you know exactly, oh, I don't want that oil, or oh, I know I'm going to have to do some dewatering when I get back home. Also, if you have your own homebrew-based biodiesel processor, and you don't know if you've dried or not, this is an excellent gauge of that. 0.6. I'm going to do the math real quick. 0.44 times 0.6.
No, 0.2.
Oh,
0.2 times 0.6.
So you got 1.2%.
0.1.
The 0.12%.
0.12%.
0.12.
That's really dry.
Yeah.
That is really dry biodiesel.
Can it vermouth? We should make a martini.
Huh? Yeah. Another question, Paul?
Ray, my question is that if there's natural processes to come in, bring it in, heat it up, let it settle, what is the norm that most people will find their oil out? How wet will it still be after you've heated it up to 130, 140, let it settle overnight?
I would say it's regional, based on humidity in the area, and I would say it's also dependent on your dewatering setup. How hot did you take it? You said 130, and then did you mix it? I would say it varies. I've seen oil that sat in a BioPro dewatered for a couple days and still have water in it. It just kind of depends on what you start with. So I don't have a real good answer to that, unfortunately, because it kind of is that answer, well, it depends. Anyone else measured their water content and know? If you do, email me and we'll let everyone know. How's that? We can do a post on that. Okay, so that's water testing. Free fatty acid test. 3 different methods that I know of. One of them is a go, no-go test kit, which we're going to demonstrate here. The other is a titration, which we'll demonstrate. And then the other is really expensive stuff. You can send biodiesel or biodiesel or waste vegetable oil off to labs, and they can test your free fatty acid content and tell you what it is. It's expensive to do that, and you know we have basic titration kits that will tell us with a fair amount of accuracy how to do that. Question or?
Me? All right.
No way in the back? Okay.
I actually do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I just forgot the number you said, the percentage target you're shooting for, the percentage on it.
Under about 1%.
Okay.
1%. So now there's a direct relationship to your titration and your water content. If you've got, let's say, 5% free fatty acid and your water content is 1%, then you may still be able to get pretty good biodiesel. But if your water content is fairly high and your free fatty acid content is high, man, you're going to struggle making biodiesel. You're going to make a lot of soap. If your free fatty acid content is low and your water content is low, then you'll pretty guaranteed if your mixing and your processing is right, you'll make good biodiesel. But if either one of those is up, and there's kind of an inverse relationship between the two as well for quality of oil, that will affect your outcome. My recommendation to you, get it as low as you can. Get your free fatty acid low, and get your water content low, and you're not completely guaranteed, but you are going to get fairly good biodiesel if your processing technology is right. What I mean by that, okay, are you heating adequately? Are you stirring all the chemicals together and letting it settle? Okay, so that's water testing. Let's do some titrations. For those of you, if any of you with factories, there's a cool product on the market called a Safe Test if you don't want to get a GC. That will, you basically, same as this, put a little sample in a test tube, put it on a meter, and it spits out some numbers, and that's your free fatty acid content. If you go to utahbio.com, you can see what they look like. They're slick. A lot of factories get them, but they're about $7,700 too. It's a sure better be slick for that.
Almost get a GC for the same.
You almost can, yeah. However, this will do free fatty acid and total and free glycerin.
Oh,
So, titrations. For those of you that attended in our previous class, we talked a little bit about it, but for those who didn't, we're going to tell you about it. The basic gist of how you do a titration, if you would like, you can go to biodieseltutorial.com. For the details, I'm going to kind of do a simplified one today, or utahbio.com, where I've got YouTube videos where you can see it made. Basically, to do a titration, 1 liter of water to 1 gram of catalyst. This becomes your titration solution. That solution is going to be basic in nature. In other words, it's going to be on the upward side of the pH scale. This is some titration solution that we've put together. You can just let it die. I kind of like it because the light doesn't shine in my face.
1 liter of...
1 liter of distilled water,
Right.
1 gram of catalyst becomes your titration solution. This is the stuff that you'll titrate with. We put pH indicator in it.
You know red?
Phenolphthalein. What does phenolphthalein do? Now, it tells you where you are on the pH. So because we use this all the time.
So you just skip that step of having to add the,
No, I'm going to put some in my stuff too.
okay.
Which, Norm, where's our pH indicator at?
Should be in that titration kit box. No, I just put a couple drops of phenol in there because that way when it's sitting on the shelf, I can just look, oh, there it is, fresh. Because you have distilled water, you have methanol,
Got
you
it.
have,
Right, and it's all clear.
yeah, it's all clear, sulfuric acid.
Sure.
That way you can tell what it is and you just.
We don't drink it. It's really important that you mark whatever bottle you make this out of as dangerous, poisonous. Do not drink, do not touch, because if you hadn't added that to it, it's very clear and it's very easy to mistake that. And you did put a base in it, and it's not good for you. How many have done titrations? Okay, got a few. Let's show you a basic titration.
No.
Basic titration goes 10 milliliters of isopropyl. Some isopropyl in a cup. And I'm kind of going through these quick because I've got so many tests I want to show you. I've got a handout that I'm going to put together that'll be similar to this, that'll be online, or if you email me, info@utahbio.com, that I'll send you, and it will detail all these tests, by the way. So,
Sorry, where do you get your ice?
Walmart.
They sell that?
Heck yeah. Cheap too.
Yeah, because otherwise you gotta use the red heat bottle.
Yeah.
Just go to Walmart.
Yeah.
Where's it made?
Any grocery store will get it, it has it.
Yeah. Walgreens,
Yeah.
CSA, any place.
90%.
Yeah, pretty low, like 80%.
Well, there's 2 different varieties in Walmart. That's where, I think this is where that came from.
Same price, yeah. So I use the anything over 70, I think they say is that, but yeah,
Do they? Cool.
98.
yeah.
Safeway brand or?
You put the pink in it, does it feel like a scientist, I think?
That jar is like under $2
Possibly.
at Walmart. So
That's probably $2 or something.
yeah, it's $1.84, I think is what it costs.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Have you ever had your solution go bad?
Yes, solution will go bad. After 90 days, it's important that you redo it. And that is because the KOH in there or the NaOH that you use will carbonate with the air and it will go bad. It'll really throw off your titrations.
Yeah.
100% humidity?
No, it's 100 degrees every day.
Yeah. It's probably going to do it too, yeah. You want to keep this in a cool, dry spot.
I got into some bad alcohol too that had been sitting around.
Yeah, alcohol can do it too. Yep.
My titrations weren't working and
The alcohol was thrown off. One thing I'm going to show you that we did yesterday is we're going to do something called blanking the titration. We want to see if the alcohol is acidic or basic, right? So I'm going to put some that in there. So I'm adding 10 mils of isopropyl alcohol. I'm adding a couple drops of phenolphthalein. Then I'm going to add a little bit of titration solution to it. And it shouldn't take more than just a teeny tiny little drop to turn that thing acidic or basic if my alcohol is clean, right? Okay. So dip in my titration solution, little tiny pipette, drop it in, one drop, just turn pink. Oh yeah. I don't know if you can see that, but there's pink. I use less than a milliliter, so I'm going to deem this pretty good doing titration. That's called blanking a titration, by the way.
Well, you could put the oil directly back into that, couldn't you?
I could,
Yeah, good.
but I'm a purist.
It's already blind.
And also, if you did it that way, you would want the color to match when you, after you put your oil in.
Uh-huh.
So if you got your blank titration one color, you kind of want to match that.
Yeah, we'll do that in fact. Like
Yeah,
this.
not really. All you need to do is just get the color.
Just to get it to
Just
turn
a
any
tiny little tinge of lavender is all you need, because that's,
Because you know it's beyond, it's above 7,
yeah, all you want to need to be is borderline. You need to know that, yeah,
not as
just a little bit color is all you need.
That is, I noticed, yeah.
It wasn't yesterday, what'd you do? Well, probably because maybe our container's a little dirty.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so to do a titration of 10 mils isopropyl alcohol, 1 mil of oil, roll it around. If it's cold outside, you're going to maybe need to heat this up. Any of you ever done titrations in the cold? Sucks, huh?
microwave.
Microwave, yep, microwave or a heat gun, different things like that will work. Okay? A couple more drops in there just to save.
The oil moved it up.
Pardon?
The oil moved the pH a little bit lower.
Yeah, it did. That means it's acidic, right? So I'm going to start with 10 milliliters of titration solution. Get out of this so I can see the light change. Oh, my back. We titrated some of this yesterday and it was really high. I don't know which one we chose today. I think we got the bad one though. Oh no! Let's see. Here we go. 7 plus 3. 7. Took 7 milliliters, so we're a little lower than yesterday. So 7 milliliters of titration solution to do that. So let's talk about the chemistry or how we use that number then. When you're making biodiesel, You do a titration. Ours equals 7 milliliters. Our titration solution is KOH based. So we'll use a base of 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. So to make biodiesel with that oil, I will use 14 grams for every liter of oil that I use. If I had 100 liters of that oil, I would put 1,400 grams of KOH in my methanol. Okay. Now, what if you're out in the field and you want to titrate all the time? Kind of a pain and it's cold and it might not work quite well. Well, there's these really handy things called go-no-go test kits that are preset to a titration that we put together. You can get them through us, you can make them yourself. It's basically just a titration in a bottle, right? 10 mils of alcohol, however much milliliters of titration solution you want to set it to, some phenol red, and you got a go-no-go kit. So when I go out in the field, sitting behind a restaurant, and I got a bunch of these, I can do the same thing, only this is pre-mixed. This is a reverse titration. Kind of like when I put some phenol in this and it went backwards.
I'd maybe use a small syringe and do half a milliliter first, because remember that's set at 5.
That's right. Where's your...
There should be a green one sitting out there in those extra.
So that's preset at 5?
This is preset at 5. So in other words, if I was doing a titration in there, it would have taken 5 milliliters of titration solution to turn that solution pink. So I'm going to use 1 ml of oil.
Should go away.
So I should, it should go away, right? Bubble out of this thing. Look at that. So if I was out in the field and I knew that I didn't want to get oil that was more than 5, if I had my, my number in mind, you can get a bunch of these, go out and get it, and I know real quick I didn't have to do a full titration. I just stuck 1 mil in there. I'll let you pass that around and take a look at it. It flunked. So that's another quick way you can do a titration test. Yes? Oh,
No, it's just
okay.
And we can set them to any level you want.
Those are available through us. These are really cool vials
So
too.
when we buy them through you, what level do they come at?
Well, I have it at 5 or at 9. The 9's what the BioPros are set at. 5 is what, but most homebrewers like it at 5, so it's preset at 5. If you have a custom need and you want it set lower, we can set them lower for you. Just email us and do it.
You still need to worry about like the 90 days.
You do, yeah. In fact, they say on this, when we sell them, it says use by, and we have a date on the side of it. So if you
And those
plan
are,
on-
that's KOH titration, by the way.
Yeah. Also, just a kind of a cool factoid I learned, if you ever want to convert your titration to a free fatty acid percentage, you take your titration number, if you're using KOH, and you divide it by 1.8. Let me do the math for me real fast. I bet it's lower than 5%, but...
Well, 9 is 5%, so after you all 3.75.
Okay, so that oil titrated at 3.75 FFA. If you're using NaOH, the formula is whatever your titration is divided by 1.2. Now that's not an exact science, and if we were being real chemists, we would do a molar solution, we'd put it in and do it a little bit differently. But this is a quick ballpark to give you an idea of where you're at. Thank you. I'm sorry, Graydon.
I guess I don't understand. You're saying if your oil, and if you're, okay, so you're saying if it titrates at 7,
If it took 7 milliliters of solution to turn that stuff pink,
okay, so it took 7 more, okay, I got it, okay.
then the free fatty acid content of that oil
All right.
is 3.75%, which is pretty good. This is pretty good oil. Make biodiesel from it. Okay. Let's see what's our next test. The real expensive stuff is you'd put it in a safe tester, you'd send it off to a lab, and they would test it for you and come back, or you could hire a real chemist like one over here that could do a molecular structure or a molar mass test and get you very, very accurate. For most home brewers or for what we do, these tests work great. So again, for titrating oil, you can do a real titration test, or you can do something like this. Okay, so that I don't make a mess, which I did yesterday.
So you're just gonna use that go no-go out in the field, I guess?
Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that nice?
Bring it home.
It's quick.
Yeah.
We built the idea came from the fact that when they first sold the BioPros, they used to say that it would handle any oil, and I disagreed with them. I said, no, I think there's an upper limit. And they says, well, yeah, you're right, there probably is, and it's probably, I said, what is it? Well, it's probably around 5%. Well, why don't you make a kit that says that so people don't have to do a titration, and lo and behold, the Go No-Go kit was born. So those are set at 5, if you get the BioPro ones, they're set at 5% free fatty acid, which is equivalent to about 9 milliliters of titration solution, okay? One thing that's important to talk about too with our titration is the quality of the catalyst that you use. Titration itself doesn't matter, but when you're making biodiesel, this base number does. This catalyst, or this KOH that we're using, is about 90% pure, and you'll see it on the side of the bag. They do what's called an assay. Industrial grade KOH is between about 90 to 93% pure most of the time. So take that number and you divide it by your purity. So in our case, we had 7 and we divided it by 0.90, and yesterday I think we said it came out to 8.6?
8.3.
8.3. So instead of adding 7, we would add 8.3 plus our 7 equal whatever grams per liter that gave us. So that's 15.3.
Oh, 8.3 was for the 7.5, you're using 7 today.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
I just use 8 for easy.
So it'd be
figure.
7.7.
7.7, 8 makes it easy.
You said that on the outside of the bag, well, where I buy mine, on the outside of the bag says nothing.
I would ask the place you
When I buy
buy it.
it, they give me a printout of that batch and tells me the percentage.
Does it?
Because it will vary anywhere from 91 to 99%.
Oh, wow.
On the batch.
Yeah,
So when you buy the bag, they give you a printout of the batch.
Good thing, really.
Yeah.
Man, that'd be nice.
You're the one who told me.
What size bag are you getting?
50 pounds.
Yeah. It's generally 25 kilos.
Yours come from China?
So they give me a printout of the bag. I took a bag home and was like, what? I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Mine's just printed on the bag, 90%.
Ray, you can sort of,
And they
you
tell
sort
me
of threw that in there at the end,
91%.
like it's an afterthought, but it's actually pretty important that you're gonna
It
use
is.
four.
It is, yeah.
15.3, not 14.
Yeah,
If you're making a
but
batch that's a good size, that could be way off.
that's correct, but it's not so much a testing thing as it is when you're making your
Oh, I
biodiesel.
see.
So just for testing, titration is just a matter of what we did. But you always should adjust for your purity of your chemicals. Okay. Let's talk about finished or biodiesel now. So we've talked a lot about testing our oil. We know we've got the water out of our oil. We know what our free fatty acid content. We know how to make our biodiesel. We've made our biodiesel. What do we have? Do we have biodiesel? According to the federal government, if your biodiesel does not pass ASTM, it's not biodiesel. And you can go argue with the EPA about that one.
Does that mean you don't have to pay tax on it?
Yes. Like I said, you can argue with the EPA about that one. They won't give you the tax credit if it doesn't meet ASTM.
You make more than 69 gallons.
No, I know.
Yeah, but if it doesn't pass the test.
I know it's a stupid thing, I agree. You can argue with them about it. Or if you want, you can go read my little rant about it the other day. So we're now going to do something really cool that was actually shown here last year called the 327 test. The basic premise behind this test is that if your biodiesel is good, we're going to use new things for this one. By the way, I saw these really cool syringes that have got what you're using them for on the side so you don't screw up. This one says alcohol and this one says oil. I've got another one that says titration solution. I will tell you that no matter what kind of syringe you get, the lettering is going to come off, so I take some clear nail polish and paint it, and then my lettering doesn't come off. So
You can get Rust-Oleum clear at the lumber yard too, and just spray it.
A little more manly than.
there you go. Yeah, they're right in your wife's drawer,
You
huh?
know, the difference between us and Drayton, I mean, you know.
Okay. Talk about the
Polish lying around.
There you go. Let's talk about the premise behind this test. Biodiesel, when it's made, is still made up. Delete some of this here. That's what I want to use. Grease on our board. What was it? Instead of towels. That's a brand new t-shirt. I don't think someone wants me to put dry erase on them. Time are we out of here, by the way?
We got 20 minutes.
Okay, that will be done by then. Okay, biodiesel is made up of, or oil is made up of triglycerides, diglycerides, and monoglycerides, right? For those of you that understand, just some basic, for those that weren't in my first class, this is a oil molecule. This is glycerin. This is a free fatty acid chain. Every oil in nature has 3 fatty acid chains and a glycerin molecule bound to it, in theory. In the real world, actually what happens is some of these free fatty acid chains break off. So I've got a bunch of these floating around with some of the chains that have broken off. So this is a glycerin molecule. This one only has 2 of its fatty acid chains connected, so they call that a diglyceride. This one's a triglyceride. This one is a monoglyceride because only one of them are connected. No matter how well you make biodiesel, you still are going to have a certain percentage of mono-di-triglycerides in your biodiesel. You also have a little something called free glycerin. In the ASTM spec, they specify that you can have up to 0.24% total glycerin content. They also have a free glycerin spec. Thank you. It's been a while since I looked at it. So in your finished biodiesel product, you can have up to 0.05% of the glycerin that's not touched to, not bound to anything. Okay? You can have up to 0.24% total molecules of glycerin still hooked to them. Okay? So our goals, someone, a genius somewhere, I think he's in Poland. He emailed me and I got to correspond with him. There's a test on that we all kind of found out about last year and we all got excited, called the 327 test. The basic premise is that if you've made good biodiesel, it should fully dissolve in methanol. And nothing should drop out. And it's very easy to do. And someone correlated that test, Bob Armentrout, last year with a gas chromatograph. And what he found is that if your temperature is 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and if you're extremely accurate, and you're putting this in here, you can almost be somewhat guaranteed that you will hit this spec if you pass. And so now all of us in Biodieselville are using this test, and if you've not seen it, we'll show you what you do. So you basically take 27 mils of methanol.
I thought the methanol had to be below 60, not, if it was above 60, it could be a false positive.
68 to 72 degrees, whatever.
So you got to keep methanol at 62 to 68 to 72 degrees?
The ambient room temperature needs to be 68 to 72 degrees.
And yes, what's your test? The methanol and the oil.
The temperature of the methanol will affect it as well, but I've not heard the 60.
Methanol's too warm.
If it's too warm, yes, but
60 degrees centigrade. This is 68 degrees.
No, 20 degrees centigrade.
I've not heard the 60 degrees. It's awfully cold methanol.
I guess it's a guarantee against a false positive.
True, that's true.
You can pass it below that.
You know, you make good biodiesel.
Give yourself a better margin.
That's
Well, you
true.
can also go the other way, get a false
Methanol
negative.
temperature make a difference?
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's too high, you can get a false positive.
That would be California, I think, in the house.
Put it in the refrigerator. Or just put it in the freezer.
House.
Your house is 60 degrees?
No, it's 100, it was 110 the other day outside. So to do this test, the house is 75.
10.
Those are approved safety glasses you're using
The truth is, he doesn't do it regularly, that's just it. That's why he's got the safety glasses.
I actually do this one, we do this one fairly often. If we suspect our batch is funny, this is one test I do quite a bit.
Well, I do it on every batch, it's simple,
Too
it's
easy
quick,
to do.
Yeah, and it tells you
and it's
so
definitive,
well.
yeah.
Okay, so there's 27 mils of this. By the way, I sell these cool little vials too, and they're nice because they seal, and it is a shameless plug, I'll admit it.
Yeah, but you spend a lot of time researching where all this stuff came from, and that's what you're getting paid for, so don't be ashamed of what you're doing.
Yeah, they're really nice. And besides Norm, who can tell me where these come from?
Who's like,
Drug testing. I used to work for a healthcare company. And we used to do drug testing. And I saw these one day and I thought, boy, those would make neat little vials for stuff. And they used to throw them away. So I brought some home and played with them.
Rinsed them out well.
Oh, it's acidic. That's a pretty small target. Let me clarify that. They had 2 in a test. Little trivia for the DOT: if you drive a truck on a road and you have a DOT license, by law, you're required to get a DOT urine test at least once a year. And they have something called a split sample. So they have a little cup and they have 2 of these in it. Well, they only use 1, and then they send that off to the lab. And actually, they make you in 2 of them. And if one of them fails, they send the other one back and test that. Well, in the industry, they also test mainly and just used 1, so they always threw away the ones they didn't use. Now we weren't cleaning up pee bottles. Look at this. This is really nice. That dissolved very quickly. We're going to let it sit and see if we get any dropout.
how much bio did you add to that?
7 milliliters. You got
Why?
3 milliliters. I'm sorry. Thank you.
3 to 27.
Okay. That's what it's
2. This was your guide.
That's South Carolina, the big jar is mine.
This is yours. This is going to test his now.
And there's one around there, that batch we made yesterday too.
Oh, yeah.
Where's that at?
I don't know.
Homemade stuff.
Yeah, homebrew.
The big jar was the stuff you made yesterday.
I think that might be the one we made yesterday.
Is it?
Big-
Okay.
Big gripper jar.
I'll bet this one doesn't.
Oh, the gripper, no, it's in the gripper jar.
Is it? Okay.
Gripper jar.
Yeah, the one that's underneath your filter there.
Okay.
That's the one batch we made yesterday.
We didn't mix that real well yesterday if you were
No.
in my class, so we'll see how well it reacts.
So, well, that will be a demonstration of some dropout, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And not because the test was done wrong, you know, you don't mix it 10 minutes and get what you want.
So again, 27 mils. I don't know what the temperature in the room is here, but you measured it earlier.
75, I suppose.
The test is temperature sensitive. If you want to see if you got really good biodiesel, if you pass, add 4 milliliters. Add 5 milliliters. If you keep passing, you know you get really good fuel.
Could be.
I use a slightly different to that, is I use a secretary funnel, and I can test, if I do an 80-20, I can test the percentage because I weigh it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I weigh what the amount that comes out of the secretary funnel. And that way I can keep track of the kind of reactions I'm getting in process, not just the final product.
So you'll do a 327, or you'll do your test after the
I
first stage?
use like 100 mLs of methanol, put it in, and actually it's more than that, but, and it dissolves, the methanol will dissolve the thing, okay, and what comes out in the bottom, I separate it out, and I evaporate away the methanol, and then I weigh it. And that way I can tell what percentage of reaction I've gotten in the first
Yep. This one went cloudy,
Which one was that?
but that doesn't mean it failed. There's been a lot of discussion about what cloudy does or doesn't mean. What I'm looking for is dropout. Okay, so cloudy means I'm pushing the edge, but I might not be bad. Remember, this one went crystal clear immediately. This one's a little bit cloudy, so I'm going to let this sit here and let's see what happens.
What was the temperature again?
68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit is what I read. You may want to do some research. It sounds like the temperature of the methanol at 60 degrees Fahrenheit will impact it as well.
Do you have any idea where we can check for further information?
If you go online to, I'll tell you, go to utahbio.com and go to my forums link on the left-hand side. I have a link to the InfoPop forum. Let me show you that in fact. And they've got a whole discussion about it. It's called the Jan Warquist test.
Is that the Polish guy?
That was the Polish guy.
Do you happen to know if he published this in science literature anywhere?
I don't know if he does or not. He got a hold of me and said, because he found out I was selling a kit for it. I sell a 327 kit through my website. You basically get 3 of these and an alcohol and an oil syringe. So you can do them over and over. But you go to the biodiesel quality one, and this will take you right to the InfoPop thread. So again, I went down here, went to my biodiesel fund, and went to the forums. By the way, for those who'd like to learn about acid, this is a quick link to the acid esterification one as well. So let's test this second one here. Now, someone said something that's important. The 327 test can be used anytime during processing. I actually run my 327 test before I wash. And we do it almost all the time. The reason for that is if this test flunks and I know that I got a really bad batch, I can re-react it at that point instead of turning it to a solid brick of soap when I go to wash it. So it's important that you, if you want to use this and use it as a quality measure, you know, do it before. There we are. Do it before you wash it. Okay? Let's measure this one last. You know what? We're kind of running low on time, so I want to do a couple other tests real quick. Soap test. A couple different ways to do this. This is my favorite, cheapest and easiest. This is finished biodiesel. Or this is going to be fun, but let's see if I can do it. I fill a mason jar or some jar full of half of this. I fill the other half full of water. Long time ago they used what?
Distilled water.
I use any water, doesn't matter. This is just what I've got.
Whatever you're going to wash with, out of the garden hose.
This is called the shake 'em up test. And basically the theory is if there's soap in this, that soap's going to fall out into the water. See that go, that nasty, cloudy stuff? It doesn't mean it's bad, but this was pre-washed fuel that we made yesterday. So let's see what we get here as this settles. Okay. This
Probably emulsion, that's what he underreacted.
Yeah, I might make an emulsion.
Today's lesson is how to make mayonnaise.
Yeah, this is starting to see some dropout. I don't know if you can see. Here's how I measure it and how I kind of tell if I'm going to re-react it. I tip this vial on its side and I measure the depth of the oil that I see in the bottom. If it's over about 1/8 of an inch, I re-react. If it's over 1/4 of an inch, something really went wrong. Water in the oil or something like that. But that's kind of how I test it. You can pass that around so you can see what it looks like. So bad, good. Yeah, I would re-react. Well, that's pushing right at the edge of what I would do to re-react.
And how long do you let that wait?
About 5 minutes.
If you didn't sit a lot longer, you probably would start out.
So you're saying if it passes, then it's met the ASTM, is that?
If it passes, it's a high chance of probability that it met the ASTM if your methanol is within the spec that he mentioned and if your room temperature is such as 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. By the way, there's an excellent article on the 327 test out at Biodiesel Community. See if I can type today. Biodiesel to right here. And you can actually read about why the test works, how it works, and some of the testing that they did behind it. So, again, biodieseltutorial.com redirects to this collaborative biodiesel, but it's just an excellent, excellent test.
So it's milliliters you're looking
Huh?
for? What's the milliliters you're looking for?
27 mils of biodiesel. Oh, in the bottom? I tip it on the side and I look to see if I've got over a quarter of an inch. I don't know how many milliliters that relates to. Okay.
If it does, then you actually just go ahead and read.
I'll re-react it. Now, I don't use all the catalyst that it took to re-react it. That's got a lot of soap in it, doesn't it? I think I made a good emulsion there. I don't see that settling out at all. Let's take some good biodiesel and do a shake them up with it.
When you re-react.
We got 5 minutes.
Another titration-
Yeah, I know. What?
You do another titration test before you re-react? or you
No.
just-
I just put, I'll tell you what I do. In BioPro, I put 2 gallons of methanol with 700 grams of catalyst. And put it back in and call it good. And run it again. Okay, this was our
What
good
size is the batch?
50-gallon batch.
2 gallons of methanol and what?
2 gallons of methanol and 700 grams of catalyst. That's using KOH, by the way.
So get some soap up there.
I do. I'm not going to shake this one real hard.
There's actually making an emulsion that'll take hours and days to clear, and if it still pass, you wouldn't know it till tomorrow.
See how that separates up so quick? So, and if that water stays clear, I know that, there's not a lot of soap left in there. That's a real quick soap test. It is not by in any way, shape, or means a conversion test. People get that confused all the time. This could be the worst converted fuel in the world and not have a lot of soap in it because your reaction didn't go very well. So all this test is for is testing for soap, okay? We're going to do one last test. We're going to do the methanol test. There is another test for soap, and it's called the soap titration test. Bromophenol blue. I've never done it. I didn't feel confident enough to show it to you. If you go out to Biodiesel Tutorial, they talk about it, but I've also seen that there's some discrepancies in how they calculate it. So if you want, you can research it. For me, this works best for me, unless you've got to really get accurate on soap.
It's a pretty ambiguous input too. It's not like the phenol where it stays red for a while. It'll creep back even though it's over.
So basically, if you got soap, you need to wash it another time?
Yeah, if you keep getting soap falling out, that means you still need to wash it. This is settling out really fast, that's pretty clear. But if it goes kind of hazy, like that hazy jar of in the mail, well, that's already started to clear.
Is it?
That one, yeah, in your left hand, you hold it up.
Oh, yeah.
That started to clear already, but remember how hazy it was? If you have that hazy stuff down here, that's a trigger for me to keep washing.
So you've got water, is that soap in the middle there?
Yeah, it's a globule of soap from my last one. Right here. Oh, right here?
Right there.
No, those are bubbles.
Okay.
Those are just air bubbles. If I let this sit long enough, it'll do well. We're going to do one final test, and that's methanol testing to see how good it is. And I'll let Norm come up and do this one.
Actually, it's real easy. Methanol at 20 degrees centigrade, room temperature, 68 degrees. Has specific gravity of 0.791. So all we do is just take something that's big enough to have enough to float it in and drop in the float. Hydrometer, and we got to make sure it stays in the center, but it will float, and it's graduated. And then you just have to be able to read what it actually says. Where's the scale? That's 80. We're right at about 90.
Sorry, what are you testing? We're testing methanol for the purity of methanol to see if it's gone bad, if it's got water in it, if it's absorbed water.
Hydrometer that we use for my beer home brewing? I mean, is it the same?
This is
Calibrated in
this is specifically for methanol.
Okay.
This is calibrated 70 to 80, 0.70 to 0.80. And then it's calibrated 10, 20, 30, 40 on the 90. And we're floating at just over 90. .7913 is actually 100% methanol. That's specific gravity methanol. So we're at, I would say, you can look at that grade, maybe your eyes a little better than mine. That stripe is going to be 90. So
Yeah.
we're at 91, 92. That is basically pure methanol, and it is. It was right out of my barrel. So, you know, it's not gonna. If we lived set here, set open, if we had a little more time, I'd try to mix a little water in there and see if we get the specific gravity to go up, make it a little heavier.
So, do you have a scale as specific gravity percent?
No, I know you'd have to divide it out. If it was like 0.795, you would be 0.4 over, so you divide that by what it actually should be, 0.791, and you would probably find out you get 2.5% water.
Okay.
What point is not good?
That's your call.
I don't like
Yes,
this.
you want, it's almost impossible to de-water it.
Yeah.
So if there is if it's over 2% water, you probably don't want to use it. It's gonna eat your cabin.
You wouldn't just use more?
No, you don't, no, because more water is gonna hurt you.
More water, or more methanol, you get more catalyst. And you can over-methylate oil.
Now, this is a really good example. Some of you are gonna learn today about recovery methanol. If you wanna see how good that recovered methanol is, this is the method in the industry actually that they use to measure it, so.
Yes.
Where do you get that hydrometer for that?
We do have, all of this
I
equipment
know
you
guy
see
can
today
sell.
is available. I want to thank Norm for bringing all this. He's from Nebraska BioPro. He sells it. We actually have some out in the trunk that we really don't want to haul home. So if you want a hydrometer, if you want a titration kit.
I have 6 hydrometers and 6 cylinders
What do you do?
with me.
So you can stop by.
Individually, these are $13.95 a piece. I was gonna sell 2 of
Well,
them.
then, I wouldn't say on the
These are the,
They are packed very well. They can
I would
ship
say
very well. Or actually, they'll go hold in your suitcase. I don't know about ships.
because this.
so these tests that we talked to you about, excuse me,
Hugging a tree.
we'll finish up real quick. These tests that we've talked to you about, you can use in an arsenal to make good biodiesel. Kind of to review, we wanted to test our oil to see how acidic it is. We wanted to test our water, or oil for water content. If the water content and the free fatty acid level is down fairly good, you're going to make good
That's just
biodiesel.
garbage. Take
How
it,
do we
dump
know?
it
We've
down.
made good biodiesel
Rinse
because we
that
do a
out.
327
Mostly
test,
alcohol and just
and we do
go.
a soak test
I'm
to
gonna
see
put
how
the
good it
methanol
came out.
in.
How do we know if our biodiesel is thoroughly washed? Again, a soak test. How do we know if it's dry? We have a water test kit that will allow us to do that. How do we know if our methanol is pure? We have hydrometers that we can use. So these are just tests that you can use to make good biodiesel. Last year, 2 years ago, there's always been this thing between the commercial industry and the home brewers, and the commercial industry says home brewers can't make good biodiesel. I'm here to tell you, if you'll use these tests, you can make damn good biodiesel. In fact, you can pass ASTM if you're careful about how you make your fuel using these tests. So, if hopefully that's helpful to you. If we'll make this presentation available online. Also, if you email me, I'll send you this document that I have here. Again, additional resources, biodieseltutorial.com, or if you go to utahbio.com, I've got links to everything. So. What?
Yeah.
The YouTube? No, it's actually because, is it YouTube ones that's on my site, the videos? YouTube has this nasty habit of every night shutting videos off for a little while. And mine are linked from the videos, so if you just come back in the morning or hit your refresh on your browser, the videos will come back. So.
And that's pretty much gone, pretty much settled out. There's still a little stripe of bubbles in there, but that would settle out very well.
I think our next one's at 10:30. I'd like to thank you for coming, and that's testing.